Hip Hop Scholar podcast, where beats meet bibliographies. On this platform, we do not simply interview artists, we archive them, contextualize them, and we honor them as living texts within the ever evolving canon of hip hop. I'm your host, Melanie, the Hip Hop Scholar. Today's guest is an artist whose work invites analysis, not just applause. A creator whose architecture, visual intentionality, and lyrical precision position him within the future-facing conversations of the culture. We welcome to the platform Too Dapper. Now, Too Dapper is not just releasing tracks, he is constructing aesthetic experiences. From Baccarat Part 1 to the striking visual world surrounding his releases, there is discipline here, design, vision. And then there is Caliente. The Caliente music video is a masterclass in visual rhetoric and multilingualism. The art direction pulses with intention. Color, motion, and framing are not accidental, they amplify meaning. Most powerful is the decision to place the beautiful words of the song directly on the screen. That gesture democratizes engagement. It allows all audiences across language, across background, learning styles to enter the text fully. This is more than just aesthetics. This is accessibility. This is futurism as well as care for the community. And this is also where Afrofuturism is in practice. Afrofuturism is not only Chrome and Cosmos, it is the act of imagining Black and brown artistic futures with agency, brilliance, and authorship. It is insisting that our stories are not confined to the present moment, but projected forward, archived for tomorrow while rooted in ancestral rhythm. And Too Dapper's work is that bridge. There is clarity in his cadence, a compositional awareness in how he moves through beats, a refusal to dilute his craft for the algorithm. And in an era where speed often outruns substance, Too Dapper chooses to be with intention, and that truly matters. Because the future of hip hop will not belong to those who simply go viral, it will belong to those who understand lineage, to those who treat visuals as discourse, to those who know that style is philosophy. Too Dapper embodies that emerging blueprint. So today we give him his flowers, not prematurely, but precisely, for the grind, the vision, and the willingness to experiment, for the discipline behind the Dapper. So this conversation is going to be identity as scholarship, rhetoric as cultural intervention, the making of Caliente, the architecture of his Baccarat, and what it means to build a future in hip-hop with intention. Because here on the Hip Hop Scholar podcast, where beats meet bibliography and culture is archived in real time, we recognize that artists like Too Dapper are more than just participants in the culture, they are shaping its next chapter. I am very happy to welcome to the platform Too Dapper.
Thank you.
All right, I hope you heard the applause and received your flowers there, Too Dapper.
I did. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So well versed, so well researched, so well studied. Thank you for those flowers. I appreciate it, Melanie.
You are very welcome. I'm so thrilled to have you on the podcast. And so we're going to start with the very first question I always ask my artists. When did you fall in love with hip hop? Take us down memory lane, Too Dapper.
It was way before it was hip hop. I think it was while it was reggaeton growing up. As a young kid in the Dominican Republic, my older brothers have always been role models and idols to me. And, I'm the youngest of 16, crazy enough. I know that's not what this interview is about, but I grew up with my two older brothers. My immediate older brother was always, he's a musician himself. He was always very into reggaeton, playing it in the house, rapping it with his friends. So, I was listening to Tego Calderon, Daddy Yankee, Wisin y Yandel, and then when I immigrated, when I was 8 years old, it was a way that I kind of gravitated and really learned English. It's the way that I say it, honestly. Like Jay-Z's music, who my brother knew English before I did. He put me on to, Jay-Z, Big Pun, a lot of like the old greats. I poured so much into that music and like mimicking that cadence because I liked it so much that it really helped me work at the accent and just learn the language quicker. So It's hard to pinpoint a time. Since I was a young child, I've loved that rhythm, the rhyming. I think in high school that passion sharpened for me. I was a spoken word poet. I helped start the spoken word club at my high school. I was part of a Brave New Voices team. And then I took I took a public speaking class where one of the assignments was actually to give a song as if it was a speech, basically. And I'll never forget, I took Nas's My Generation. It's off the album that he had with Damian Marley. And I'll never forget the quote. It's like, forgive my generation, subjected gentrification, depicting their frustration over ill instrumentation. Because music today is the way for my generation to communicate the frustration they're facing, or something like that. And I had to give that like a speech in my freshman year public speaking class, and I it always stuck with me that there was so much power behind some of these songs, some of these rap songs specifically from lyricists.
Oh, wow. Such a fantastic story. Especially being the youngest of 16. My father is the youngest of 14, right?
Wow.
And to sharecroppers. And so, us being the youngest of my 50 plus cousins, that identity is so important, being the youngest of the crew and taking what you've learned from everyone. So, that is pivotal. And I'm so glad you shared that, being the youngest and giving your shout outs to your big brothers for sharing that with you, especially moving from DR to the States, and that being integral. And so, again, hip hop does have connections to reggaeton. And I'm so glad you brought up all of those great musicians. I think about Mickey Woods, I think about Anuel. There are so many great, even Calle 13, who
Oh,
I've been
Residente, one of my favorites, one of the best.
one of mine too. Let me tell you, I've been reaching out to him, Residente, to try to get him to speak with him, and I've done a platform discussing him when he was in a duo and before he went solo. Because my husband is from El Salvador, so we have a bilingual home as I learned Spanish. But I love how Calle 13 raps, because he does it in a way where it is nearly like identical to the translation in English,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he does it so methodically that it's just a beautiful thing. Plus, connecting to the beautiful language of Espanol.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, again, that's one of the main reasons to reach out to you, is because you are unabashedly representing of your culture and making that connections with hip hop and making it your own, and that stands out so much so. Oh yeah. So then, with that, so let's start from the beginning as well. You are a lyricist, you were rooted
Mm-hmm.
in, growing in the music. And I also love that assignment that your instructor gave you. Shout out to that teacher that gave you that assignment. But let's talk about your name, Too Dapper. Talk to us the origin of that name.
Yeah, shout out to Miss Kim. She's
Just
a
kidding.
principal now, but yeah, Too Dapper. It's not my first rap name. My first rap name was Black Keys because it's always been really politically charged for me, really conscious, like my approach to hip hop and making music. And I remember always feeling like we have a responsibility as artists, as creators, to sort of um be responsible for the narrative and the words that we're putting into the space. But Too Dapper, I think for me, the reason I changed the name ultimately after going to college, after going to Penn and graduating, and coming back to music after putting it down for 4 years to pursue college sports. It was about just being sharp in every aspect of it, in every aspect of the music, just taking it seriously. I think I was coming back into hip hop and into music at a time where it felt a little bit diluted, right? And I don't want to sit here and say hip hop is dead. I don't want to sit here and say that there aren't greats. There's always been great lyricists. There's always been people making great music, but it was right as rap was becoming pop and it was almost being commoditized in a sense that diluted the product, right? And that was my opinion at the time. This was 2019. It was also there was a lot of protests going on, and there was just a lot of this was right before 2020 when everyone had an opportunity to think about what was going on in the world and where they fit into the world and what they were going to do with their voice and their opinion and their time because they were at home for the first time, right? So Too Dapper was suggested by my brother. I'll give him credit for that, El Filosofo. But To me, it just means being sharp in everything that you do, really focusing on the pen, right? Like you could throw a beat on right now and I can find a flow and I can rap, right? And it could sound dope, right? But I have to commit before I put it out to reading that, and sharpening it. Dapper to me is just sharpness, right? It's like when I went on the Apollo stage, I went on with a suit and tie because I feel like that's what the platform calls for, right? Like hip hop, rap calls for a level of sharpness and professionalism that I was hoping to bring to it, and it starts with the name. It starts with what you commit to.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, I love that. Absolutely. That dapper, very much of a vernacular of, that upper echelons of being ready for anything. And also shouting out to Miss Kim. Thank you, Principal Kim now, but shouting out to that
Mhm.
principal and that instructor for what they've provided. It really got started for you in making those connections of identity, culture, music, and expression. And I'm glad too that you came back to it. I've done interviews with students that are currently in college or grad school and those who have finished, and being a hip hop artist actually helped to balance everything. Did you
Mhm.
feel the same way? Even though you had went to school, did you let go of hip hop as you were in school? And then when you got back, what was that feeling like to bring it back to yourself?
I never let go of hip hop. I think I let go of like releasing music and pursuing artistry, right? I think that those are two very different things. I've always like I would say I'm a competitor above anything else, right? So if I'm doing it, I want to be doing it well and I want to be doing it better than other people, right? That's really what it boils down to. And college for me was an unprecedented opportunity. I had an opportunity to play football at Penn. I was the only kid from my city that went to Penn at the time that I went, and ultimately I didn't want to one risk that. It was still at a time I'm young, I'm 18, I'm thinking that's like, oh, if someone finds some of these lyrics, they're a little bit more aggressive, politically charged. Like if someone finds my music, could they take this acceptance away? Could they take my scholarship away? So I took everything down. And then when I got to college and walked onto that team, it was just so much time. It was 40 hours a week. I got punched in the face for the first time in terms of like the workload and not understanding what I was signing up for, right? And I was just trying to keep my head above water, to be honest. But hip hop was there the whole time. I was listening to music the whole time. One of the first heated arguments I got into with my roommate was the Kendrick versus Cole, like the endless debate, right? This is a West Coast kid that you couldn't tell anything. You couldn't tell him Kendrick wasn't, God's gift to earth, and I was the biggest J. Cole. I still am one of the biggest J. Cole fans in the world, right? So that was one of the most heated discussions, and it followed me always. And going out and being social and being amicable is always a big part of who I am. I communicate with music, right? If I meet somebody, I'll share a song with them. If I meet someone, I might make a merge playlist on Spotify and see where the algorithm thinks we overlap, right? And it's just a part of who I am. So I never put hip hop down. I would say I put down pursuing artistry in pursuit of something else, right? Financial opportunity, graduation, potential shot at higher level sports, right? And ultimately, I'm glad I put it down when I did because I think you have to live a little bit of life before you keep making music, right? Like I think we all put out music. We got to live a little, and then we got to put out more music, right? So it's like that's part of. I'm rambling a bit, but part of what I feel like is wrong with the formula, like the independent artist formula. It's like, oh, drop a song every week for 6 months. It's like I don't have 24 songs of worthwhile content right now, And if I made 24 songs right now, which I could, right, and drop them over 24 weeks, are they really going to be relevant to where I am 6 months from now? Probably not, right? So it's just one of those things where I feel like I'm glad I put it down when I did because I learned so much about life and the world and who I am through college, for sure.
Well said. You are not rambling at all. I want for you to feel free to explain. I am actively listening to every nuance and detail that you're sharing. So please be relieved in that. So well said with, never letting hip hop go, but using music, like you said, being able to share your Spotify and actively looking at how it merges with someone else's. That's super dope right there. I love that analysis of making connections in that way, and then jumping into conversations and debates. That's always important, to be able to speak about the prowess of an artist like Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. Shout out to J. Cole, especially with his most recent album. And then in that aspect, the experience, that lived experience that you shared, being able to live life, experience it, and then jumping back in, that quality over quantity. You're so absolutely right. One producer that I had interviewed, AG, the Genius Child out here in Houston, he made the comment to say that, people are trying to, drive out so much because the algorithm demands it, when really you just need 5 good tracks or 10 good tracks that you can come back to and then share that out, as opposed to having 100 of them that are pseudo okay. And that's really key. Whether you are creating the beats or the lyrics or anything, is having that quality over quantity. And well stated there, indeed.
To that point, I think a critical juncture for me was when I started performing all over New York, right? And I had the pleasure of like performing in front of people that understood the English and the Spanish of it often, right? And then sometimes I would perform in front of audiences that as soon as I switched to Spanish, you could see it in their eyes. They didn't understand a word that I was saying, right? But they got the feeling, right, while you're performing. And it almost impacted the way I started writing after that. It's like, if I can't perform it, I'm not sure I want to put it out, right? Because this is the aspect of it that I love, like connecting with people in this way, like being in a room with a captive audience that's hanging on to every word, especially when you have the kind of cadence and words that make people, that beg attention, right? That beg people to pay attention, right? And it's almost like I never want to compromise on that, and it impacted my creation after I started performing all over the city.
Mm-hmm. Staying true to you, right? The audience will bend to what you present, but I think that having that passion about what you're sharing, no matter what it is, but being true to yourself, is going to always be paramount to doing what the audience or the algorithm wants for you to do. You got to start with self. Like, that's going to be the most important thing. And especially going back to you being the baby of 16, you're being influenced by all of your siblings, right? But then still finding who you are and being just that. I tell that to my students, like, if you're the baby of the family, you're really the alpha, because you're learning from everyone's mistakes. You have all the talent almost encompassed into you, and really being able to shine in all those regards. So I'm really happy that you do embrace that, right? That, like, and just like you said, you have audiences that may not understand the language, but they understand the passion. We saw that in the Super Bowl when Bad Bunny performed, same premise, where he's going to stay true to himself, but the audience will have to bend. The audience will have to understand, and gave a riveting performance. But much like what Too Dapper has also created, is this space of being exactly who you are and representing that unabashedly.
Mm,
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. That's right. So yeah, shout out to Bad Bunny. We're focused on Too Dapper though. And so with that, your authenticity, how do you ensure that you stay authentic when you are creating this music, right? The evolution, as we see, some people will dilute themselves to satisfy that piece, but you are very much so staying authentic. So can you break that down for our audience and how you maintain to do so?
Yeah, I think I'm blessed. I'm fortunate enough to have people really close to me that value my music and my creativity and engage me, right? Like I talked to you about my older brother who, is an immigration attorney now, a Harvard, Harvard trained immigration attorney. He was a rapper at some point, right? And he's one of the first people to listen to a song when I make it, right? Like when it's a demo and it has, I haven't gone in the studio, I haven't mixed it. I send it to him and he'll hinge on every word. He'll say, "Well, if this song is about mom, I don't know about that bar, like I really don't know about that Spanish bar you threw in there." Which maybe when I wrote it, it was a rhyme that appealed to me because of the cadence and the syllabic melody and just how it fit into the structure. But he pushes me to find something more true to what the song is supposed to be. So I'll give credit where credit is due and say that I have really close friends and family that are truly engaged with my music and help me stay true to who I am. I think I also have a responsibility. Like I believe that as artists and creators, we're a piece of a bigger pie, right? I have really strong opinions about who I am. Like music is very cathartic to me. It's a point of a lot of self-reflection for me, and I think I had to go through many journeys after, I lost my dad 3 years ago. I had to move out of I moved out of home to go to college. I dealt with sick parents throughout almost all of my teen years. Like I've been very close to loss just by being the youngest, youngest of 15. When I was born, my mom was 40, my dad was 55. That opens you up to a lot of loss, right? And every time you grieve, I think you go through a lot of self-reflection and you grow as an individual. And I try to bring that into my music. I really do. I think about, is this something I can stand by? Is this something I can stand by in front of the people I work with, right? Is this something that I don't want to, I understand the dichotomy of man. I understand that we all have different angles and different parts of who we are, and there's anger there, right? And there's ways that we want to that we feel compelled to communicate that anger sometimes, but I believe in radical candor, right? I've been in a professional work environment where I had to be someone else. I had to step through the door, I had to put on a mask and be who they wanted me to be so that I could make the money that I needed to make. And I lasted 2 years in that environment, right? Before burning out. And I couldn't figure out, because it was the first time in my life I tapped out, and I couldn't figure out why it was for a long time. I thought it was a shortcoming on my end, honestly. I thought I couldn't work hard enough, but that's never been a problem before. I spent 40 hours a week playing football and still got above a 3.0 in college. Like that was never a problem for me. And I'm not trying to brag. And then I was trying to understand, why was this work environment a problem for me? And it was truly that. It was that I couldn't be myself, that I felt like there was aspects of who I was that I had to hide. Like there was comments that people made that I couldn't react to as my full self because I felt like they could compromise my position. So, I mean, people talk about it in the context of code switching a lot, right? It's almost like I decided after leaving that job, I'm not doing that anymore. Like I'm not gonna try to contort and conform to this kind of picture of who you want me to be because I want to fit in or I want to advance my professional career. And I worked in corporate finance. I still do, right? And it can be difficult to get in front of somebody and say, yeah, make music and here's my Spotify, you can listen to it. But I do that. If I meet somebody and they ask me what I do in my free time, I'm gonna be honest. I make music and I love making music and I love performing. If you want to go listen to it, go listen to it. Yeah, it's politically charged. There's opinions you might not agree with, but they're not baseless. You know what I mean? They're grounded in something, and the music tells you what they're grounded in. So I always welcome that sort of that discourse, and I think that that's the biggest thing for me personally, outside of the people around me in my circle, is understanding that I want to bring my full self into every room. It means that my music needs to be a part of that, and a part of the way that I present myself and walk around in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, round of applause for that. So much so, like that there is such a masterclass in authenticity that you just talked about. Being able to be exactly who you are wherever you are. The music will always be there. Just to share just a real quick personal anecdote for myself. When I started my podcast last year, to share it with my department chair was something that, it is what it is. I'm one of only three persons of color in the department, and then my department chair also being someone who is white as well. But I was like, yeah, I am the hip hop scholar and this is my podcast. And to share that with her, we've had such rich conversations and such great support for me to be exactly who I am, and in all spaces, whether it's at the job, whether it's in the studio or in person or professional. That is such an important thing. And you said something too, not bragging, but stating the obvious. If you can go to Penn State, which is a predominantly white institution, maintaining a high GPA, performing at a collegiate level, playing football, and keeping your sanity and being able to graduate and all those things, yes.
Melanie, I don't want those Penn State football players to get mad. I went to UPenn.
You
Penn State
Penn,
is
my
a
bad.
different level of D1, and I would
Okay.
normally not correct you, but I just feel like those football players would take it personally if people are walking around thinking I played at Penn State.
I thank you for that. Thank you for
Mm.
correcting me. At UPenn, playing at the collegiate level at any campus for that matter, right? But I'm so glad that you have shown on this platform that people really have to evaluate the environment and not self. and not say that you have the shortcomings, and to really reflect and say, what I have done, what I've done, and in this aspect, what really is the root of the issue. That's vital. And again, that goes back into that hip hop artistry with that confidence. It takes a lot of confidence to get on the microphone in front of a group of people and share your message. Putting together those words. Let me ask you real quick. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the stage, or do you prefer the booth? Which is your preference?
I think it has to be the stage, like I can't tell you, Melanie, the amount of times that I've performed and I can't tell you what happened.
Hmm.
Like utter just complete blackout. And I've only drank water. You know what I mean? It's like it's a different level of engagement, joy, preparation. You have to, I'm somebody that doesn't want to perform with a backtrack, right? I want to know every word and I don't want to miss a beat, right? So it's almost like the level of preparation and intimacy you have to have with your own music to prepare for an hour long performance. I've done shows where I'm the only performer, right? I've done shows where like I line up the openers and it's like to engage an audience for 45 minutes, even if you only call it 30 minutes, it's a different beast than going up for one song during a showcase, right? It's like you have to know where you're taking things, how you're engaging with the audience in between, and you become more than a rapper, you become an entertainer, right? Not saying that rappers aren't entertainers, but when you're in person in front of an audience like that and you can see that you're losing somebody on the left side or somebody's doubting you here on the right side, or matter of fact you just walked in and you didn't hear what I just said, I might need to say it again because you strike me as someone that might value that, right? Like that piece of the puzzle, that rush that you get from seeing it in someone's eyes when it clicks, I think it's so valuable to me. Like I enjoy making music, and when I'm in the booth or at home recording, right? I record a lot of music right here where we're talking, right? I lose track of time. Like I could start right now. It's 3 p.m. I could record until 3 a.m. and forget to eat because I'm so encapsulated and so engrossed in what I'm doing. So I don't want to undermine how much I value creating music, but there's just nothing like putting so much work into what you put out and seeing it click for somebody. Like looking into their eyes when they're like, he really said that. That's really what he meant. And for me, there was value in performing in front of people that could understand, because you talk about me rapping in two languages. It's one constant stream of thought, right? It's not like I'm less of a punchline rapper and I'm more of like a narrative storytelling rapper oftentimes, right? So it's almost like I'm finishing the story in Spanish, but I'm also trying to make it so that if it's in English, if you only understand English, you still get the gist of it, right? So it's like when you see someone that can capture all of it and it clicks for them, there's no feeling like it, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That goes back to your spoken word experience, right? Being that poet on stage, not wanting the lyrics behind you, like you want the raw sound, your soul even. Because being on the stage, that is a different breath work. That is, not taking any breaks. You have to be ready and then absorbing what the audience is giving you. That's vital. And I appreciate that answer, and definitely rings true to your authenticity as well. Um, so from your perspective, right? What separates a good lyricist or rapper, if you will, from a great artist in your eyes? What's the difference between good and great?
I think your question was a good lyricist from a great artist, right? I think it has to be about more than just what you're saying and the words. It has to be about the music, right? Like songwriting and creation, the whole product. I think everyone that cares about what they're saying up there, like we all fall victim to the lyrical miracle trap. Like when I was making music in high school, if I pull up some of those tracks, it's like trying to use the biggest words in my vocabulary, all the SAT prep words, and just trying to sort of, but what am I doing with that? Like at the end of the day, it's like understanding that music and a song is a vehicle to communicate an idea, not just an idea, right? And that structure can either make it more or less palatable. And not saying that you need to dumb it down, shout out to Lupe, to make people understand what you're saying more. All I'm saying is like understand where to take your punches, right? Like your opening bar and your last bar have a lot more resonating power than what you're saying in the middle, right? And if you want to pull something to the someone to the middle of a verse, what do you have to do to make them give it attention to the rest of the song, right? Like how do you mix and master the rest of the song to create moments to make people pay attention where they normally wouldn't, right? It's a game of consumer psychology. It's a game of game theory, right? Like what's your hook? Like, are you starting with a hook or are you starting with a verse? Are you coming? Are you, now people don't like lead ups in songs. They don't like an 8 bar count intro or a 4 bar count intro. They want to just start rapping right away because you don't know how long you have people, right? A lot of it is made for Instagram and Reels, and you might only have people for 5 seconds. So if they don't hear you rap, then it's over. But there might be value for that to that intro, to like seeing a song build. Shout to Let the Beat Build by Lil Wayne, right? Like there's value to that sometimes if it's playing into the artistry, right? So I would say what separates a good lyricist from a great musician is it goes beyond the lyrics, right? I don't think you can be a great musician without being responsible for what you're putting into the world, right? I'm not saying that you have to be the best lyricist. You have to be aware of your lyrics. But you can't be a great musician without being a good songwriter, I think, without being a good creative, without understanding all the different parts of the pie. I'm not a producer by any means, right? But I'm blessed to work directly with producers and tell them, you know what, for this song, I want you to put some bachata in it, or I want you to put some salsa in it because I want to talk about this aspect of my identity. Like I'm just inspired to do that, right? And understanding that that all ties together to like make one good song and one good product. That I feel like that's part of it. And you noted, I mean, you talked about bacha rap or baca rap, right? You talked about caliente, right? These are songs that what I tell people is this is for Caliente, I was publishing practice, right? I was trying to teach myself how to mix and master. I was trying to teach myself how to do so many aspects of the process that that's a song that maybe today I would hone and tone and make sound sonically a lot different than I did when I put it out. But back then for me what it was I want salsa and I want boom bap and I want this specific salsa song with this specific boom bap bass line and I want to talk about this and I want to do it in a sense that if I'm performing in front of a crowd that speaks Spanish and English, they'll know what I'm talking about and they'll believe that I'm undeniable, right? While bacha rap is almost like the second iteration of that, which is now more of like a honed songwriter, right? More of a I understand mixing and mastering. I got a little bit of money in my pocket. I can go in a studio. I can talk to an engineer, right? And sonically it's probably a better song in terms of like if you're blasting it in the speakers, but they do very similar things, right? They merge aspects of my identity. There's a lot of bravado, there's a lot of like braggadocious bars in there too, but there's also a lot of like consciousness of what's going on and how I'm presenting myself.
Hmm. And so the reflection and specifics of the growth in between that goes along with
Hmm.
separating that good from the great, I feel, from what you're
Hmm.
saying. And I appreciate you bringing up Lupe Fiasco and Lil Wayne in that as well. But that reflective piece, I really like that pinpoint of, and as well as the particular vernacular to use like be not only with the multilingualism with the different languages but also in what you're saying, like being able to capture the audience's attention and the awareness that people's attention spans are very different now. Everybody's not waiting for a 4-minute track. You have 90 seconds at best and less than if you are in social media. And so that is definitely some aspects for considerations. So let's talk about. I said Baca rap, but pronounce it for me. Bacha rap.
Bacha rap. So bachata and rap just merged together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that seems like a conceptual blend. Can you break that down for our audience today? What that is, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. And just break that down for us on how that is blended together, bachata and rap.
Social media gets a lot of heat and a lot of flack. One of my favorite things about it, is that it creates an open breeding ground for collaboration, right? We met on socials, right?
Yeah.
We're having this conversation because of socials. I met the producer of that song, R. Soto, on social media, right? And he had a lot of like boom bap kind of beats. He's Dominican from Boston. We're going back and forth on DMs. We hop on a video call, and I'm like, man, I've been looking. I tell him exactly what I've been looking. I've been looking for some bachata, something that feels like a little aventura, but has some like a solid bass line in it, and that's the direction I want to take this next project. Is what I tell him at the time. And in less than 2 weeks, he sends me like a skeleton kind of structure, and I'm like, this is cool, this is dope. I rap a little bit to it. He builds more around my vocals, and we're going back. I've never seen him. I've never been to where he's from, and we're going back and forth, emails, socials, ultimately building a track. And the way that I come into that song is like, yo no salto por dinero, tengo cuarto, no me esmero, which means I don't jump for money. I have money. I'm not obsessed with it, right? It's almost like it's such a different place than where I've been creatively and artistically my whole life. Like I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I've made it, right? But thankfully I'm in a much more better place. I'm in a place of financial stability, right? And I'm rapping from a place of financial stability. And I'm seeing like a lot of people almost be asked to put on like this minstrel show to blow up as artists, right? Like I have to play this game, I have to put out all these songs, I have to do all this volume, and I have to make myself like almost like this infinite. I have to give you infinite availability into who I am. It's like the reality TV culture of like hip hop and rap. It's like it was almost like me rejecting that at the time. That's what that song was and how I opened it. It's like I'm not doing all that, and this is my people's music, and I know that bachata for a long time and salsa for a long time were used as like cries of protest, right? It was the music that the slaves played when they were trying to communicate in their own way, in a way that the owners and the plantation owners couldn't understand, right? So it's almost like this is my cry, this is my song to say I'm doing my own thing. I'm not doing it the way that you want me to do it. And a common thread amongst a lot of my music is this is not fiscally motivated. Would I love to make music full time? Yes. Like, please, if you're listening to this interview, bump my music. Um, Buy stuff, pay for it. Send money to my Cash App. But at the end of the day, when I put out a song, I know odds are that song's not gonna make me rich. I'm putting it out because I value the artistry, I value the music, and I'm trying to further the narrative, right? I'm trying to go through the process of catharsis. I'm going through my own therapy, right? So it's almost like communicating that. That's what that song by Chat That Rap does. It's almost like I'm making this music for different reasons. Like I know a lot of people think it's all about the money, and a lot of rappers will have you believe it's all about the money. There's so much floss rap out there, right? Some of my favorite rappers floss and flex, and it's name brand this and name brand that, right? But it's like that's not the smartest thing to do with your money all the time. And I talk about a lot of that with my music too.
Yeah, establishing legacy. Talk to me then. What is success to you? What is the success that you are trying to reach? Is it money? Is it legacy? A bit of both, of course. If anybody else is listening, if you want to pay me for the podcast and buy me a coffee or anything, feel free to do so. Yet at the same token, having doing this archival collection on stories. What is your success? Define what success to you is with your music. Too Dapper.
I'll tell you the markers of success. I feel like I've been successful as a creative if I can create my whole life. If I ever have to put it down, I feel like I haven't found a way to do it sustainably. I feel like I've been successful as a creative if I've inspired and influenced other people to do the same thing. I think there's a lot of people that are pushed to like be on the sideline and are scared of the self marketing aspect of this, or scared of the like, what's my family gonna think? I turned 30 this year. What's my family gonna think? I'm still making music and this and that. It's almost like, listen, it's like what are you gonna think 20 years from now if you really didn't do something because of what someone else would think? Right. So, I mean, it sounds like an abstract and convoluted answer, but you touched on it when you were talking about Afrofuturism. It's about legacy and what you leave behind, right? It's about the imprint that you leave on other people. I think I'm already so successful with music, and I think that's largely because there's people out there like I'm a top five artist for more than five people in this world. Like there's more than five people in this world that listen to me amongst the five people that they listen to the most. That's an insane thought. Like that in the world of social media, that means nothing. Right, in the world of numbers and comparisons, that means nothing because there's plenty of artists out there that a label might want to sign that has hundreds of thousands of people that they're in their top five, right? But at the end of the day, those are people I'm influencing that reach out to me and tell me that they like my music, that this song did something for them, right? And that's part of what I value. I think even your outreach on social media to me, and the way that you introduced me in this interview is telling me that the people that care about it, that are listening to it, truly understand how much goes into it, right? And it's there forever, right? I think success is part of understanding that this music is there forever and can you stand behind it forever? You know, I feel like some of the songs that I put out before weren't successes because I had to take them down, you know? And if I had to take them down, it's because I wasn't conscious enough of how evergreen that would be, you know, of how everlasting that message was going to be and what it would perpetuate. And at the end of the day, not everything that I say in my music is politically correct. It can't be, right? Because that's not what rap and hip hop is. You know, at the end of the day, it's protest, right? So if I was confining myself to political correctness or playing within the lines, then I wouldn't be making good music. But it has to be well informed. It has to be based in something, right? So I know that that was a very long-winded answer to a short question, but I think success for me is truly about sustainability, being able to do this over a long period of time. Hopefully as long as I live. Influence, you know, hopefully inspiring other people to make music as well. And ultimately, I want to be able to perform my whole life, not just make music, right? And that does take reach, that takes breath, that takes making music good enough that people want to pay to go listen to it. And that, you know, that's the challenge that we all have as artists competing in a world of volume.
Well said. All of that encompassing your answer, and it was a brilliant answer on top of that. I want to add to that, when I do reach out to artists on social media, sometimes, they respond back, and other times they look at my numbers and say, oh, no, no, thank you. How much do I need to pay or this and that? And I'm like, no, no money. This isn't for any funds. I'm not paying you either, but to capture the story and to capture this essence and hopefully it being an opportunity for you to see that there are people out there that appreciate absolutely what you're doing. I had the opportunity to interview, this was a rapper named Valley TBA, right before he passed away. He passed away in an accident while he was in Italy with his wife, like not too long after our interview. And his sister reached out to me because she saw it on his socials that he had been interviewed, and she thought was rap was a hobby. But I was able to tell her like absolutely not. He actually was a rap artist, true to the game, and actually was a successful artist. And through the interview and being able to share that with her and the family, it really opened up this scale of wow, my brother did make it in this aspect of what make it means. And I felt very honored to capture, his brilliance in the interview. And then with that, and I just spoke with someone earlier about, social media. The post I've seen that I will never forget is how it says that social media has people so gassed up that they think that getting 10 likes is bad. But imagine getting jumped by 10 people. So
100%.
totally,
hundred percent.
100%.
100%. And I would almost flip it. I'll flip it the other way. Imagine getting cheered on by 10 people. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you perform at a showcase where no one knows who you are, you go up there and you rap for 3 minutes, and 10 people are on their feet clapping for you. You killed it. No matter how many people are in that audience, you killed it. You killed it. And that's what you have on social media. You have 90 you have 20 seconds, 60 seconds to convince people that what you're doing is worth their time, and what you're hoping for is to run across the Melanies, across the Eresotos, across the people that ultimately are looking for something of that specific substance. And everyone talks about the algorithm. Everyone depends on the algorithm. How do I play the algorithm so I can get in front of the right people, right? It's almost like you found something that I recorded a year ago. I think a year and a half ago. And I always like to ask people when they message me, like, oh, what did you hear? Like, what is it that attracted because there's also a lot of people trying to like get into your. This is not what you were doing, but there's also a lot of people like there's so many scams out there, right? Oh, I love your music, this, and that. It's like, oh, so what did you hear? You know, like tell me which song did you like, right? And ultimately, what that told me is like, then that might have been a flop when I put it out, and I put out things I was like, dang, I worked so hard on this piece of content. I spent 2 hours making sure that the lyrics were in the right part of the page, that the filter was the right way, and like like I recorded this 3 or 4 times. I had to get it in one take. I had to make sure the ad libs were right. I mixed it a little different. I like used 3 different apps to get to the ultimate final product, and I posted, and no one's liked it in an hour, right? And you feel that pressure. It's like I don't want people to think I'm not popping. Like, do I take this down? And I just stop. I just don't. Why would I? Somebody could see it a year from now. And frankly, I put in the work to make a good product. I wouldn't have put it out if it wasn't. There's a reason for I have like the chapter 16 freestyle right now. That was one of those it was like the most recent time I can remember that I thought about taking something down. And I remember when I sat down to write that song is Dave. He's like a UK rapper. He had crazy trajectory. I think like the youngest person to win one of their like the UK rap Grammys, right? He won it at 16, 17. I call him the like UK rap J. Cole, is what I say. That's high praise for me. He sat with the equivalent of they're big basically. They're Biggie basically. And this whole song is them sitting at a dining at a dinner table, going back and forth, giving each other advice. So I figured like I made that freestyle from the perspective. It's like, what would I ask if I was sitting across the table from Jay-Z or J. Cole? Like, how would I act in this position if I was Dave? And I had such a fun time writing that, putting it out, like putting the lyrics on the page the way that I put it. And it just ultimately was such a different piece of content than what I've made before that I think people just didn't know how to react to it. You give it a month, it's doing a lot different than it did the first day I put it out, right? But I remember being inclined. I remember feeling that like, because we're all self-conscious. I'm not the first to admit it, right? We're all a little self-conscious, right? So it's like I remember having the thought, do I need to take this down? Like, is it not as good as I thought it was, But it is, and I just left it up.
That's right. I heard that Kanye West lyric you just gave there. That's right. I heard that.
Mm,
And then along with that too, playing the long game. Like that's my goal for all the clips and the podcast itself is the long game with this. So, like establishing this academic scholarly merit of these stories. So 5, 10 years from now, coming back to this interview, because digital humanities is getting ready to be the actual library database. People are going to be quoting social media and using podcasts to help substantiate their thesis, and that's going to happen. Also, when you shared about what I saw that you posted a year ago, in English, what I also teach is, do you know that meme, keep calm and carry on? You know that
mm-hmm,
particular? So that actually came about like in the 14, 1500s. That particular phrase that was used to, for the people in that time frame, wherever it absolutely were, the royalty placed that for their constituents to keep calm and carry on. But
mm-hmm,
little did they know, more than 500 years later, it will become a meme that everybody you would remix and make their own. And so that connection, that whatever you create, that legacy that's going to last, no matter how small you may think it is, staying true to yourself is where the longevity comes. So playing that long game, so important. And I appreciate it so much that, looking for those Melanies and looking for those people that were looking for substance. We hear something, we want to reach out because there are scammers that they've scammed me too, trying to get me to pay for, to bring up my numbers. Yet,
mm-hmm,
again, the focus is on the content, right? I'm
mm-hmm,
really not interested in adding more followers, although it would be great to help build whatever credit that I need. Yet at the same token, the content is what's priceless to me. The content, and I tell people, they're like, well, how much, you going to pay me, or how much do I need to pay you? There's never any money. The goal, again, is to make this established so that you can earn the respect that you rightfully have, whether you have 100,000 followers. And I've interviewed people who are really, really popular. And I've also interviewed people who really have something to say, but don't have, many followers. They celebrate having 100 views.
Mm.
on a YouTube video that they took the time to put out. So my goal again is for the real artistry, the people that really look at hip hop and use it because it is a form of expression. It is to showcase their identity. It is how we, breathe. Even and so for people like yourself too Dapper, you said it already. You posting on social media is far different than performing on a stage. Like those are two
Mhm.
totally different spectrums. So I want to ask you, if you could perform anywhere in the world, no matter the money, the resources, or anything, if you could perform anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
I've never gotten that question. It's a hard one. Um, my mind went to Pusha, Clips and Pharrell recently performing at the Vatican. It went to performing at Amateur Night at the Apollo a couple of years ago. I think if I could perform anywhere in the world, as corny as it's gonna sound, sold out Madison Square Garden. I'll tell you why. I went to a sold out MSG Drake and Future concert freshman year of college. Um, and I remember looking at the stage and looking up at everyone that was rapping and everyone being the opener at the time. I think I'm blanking on his name right now, but it'll come to me. But the opener at the time was not a New York rapper. It was somebody that was coming up from like North Carolina or Atlanta or something like that. Um, and it took one or two songs for people to realize like, oh, this guy's good. And he won over a sold out Madison Square Garden, right? So I just think about what it must feel like to connect with that many people at the same time, to convert that many people at the same time, to make that many people value and appreciate your artistry at the same time. I think another answer, if I can be cheap, I went to $3 in a Dream concerts. I don't know if you remember what those were, but J. Cole was doing tours where you could pay $1 to see him on these stages like across different cities. And it was $1. You had to stand in line since like 10 a.m. I remember in New York, I stood in line since like 9 a.m. to get a band to then come back and buy a ticket for a show that was ultimately at 8 p.m. It was downtown. I live in the Bronx. It was like I just stayed downtown and like sat at Best Buy charging my phone because there was no point of going home. Um, and there was that audience is something different. That's truly like somebody that was at the peak of their artistry. I mean, it's hard to say after he just dropped that album, but at the time it felt like the peak of his artistry right before dropping Forest Hills Drive. And he's letting his fans engage with him for $1. So you have in a room full of like 150 people that know every word to every song he's performing. Like you're not there if you don't. Between those two, I'm not sure what my answer is, but it's somewhere in between.
So those are beautiful answers, and I asked that question to help manifest that with the artist. If I get a chance to ask that, and so yeah, I like that. Especially with not just when you talked about Drake and Future, I believe, but the opening act, how they felt when they were performing, and that also that modesty of not being a big name, but being on a big name stage, and the feeling of the moment from being an unknown to a known in one or two songs to earn that keep. I really like that description there. Really, really well said. All right. So, just about one more question for you. Um, when historians of hip hop look back, right, we're talking 50 to 100, even 200 years from now, what do you want them to say about Too Dapper?
I want him to say he was el mejor en dos idiomas. That's the name to the first song in my first album, and it stands for the best in two languages, right? What I'm really trying to do is not just bring together two languages, but bridge together two different cultures, right? I have a song that says, "Me preguntan que yo soy, yo le digo Afro Latino," right? They ask me who I am or what I am, I tell them Afro Latino, right? I think there's a lot of like whitewashing that happens in Dominican culture. There's a lot of like rejection of your African roots and your blackness and that just happens, right? But then there's also this like beautiful aspect of after immigrating to America, living in the South and like seeing what old a black man that still remembers slavery, because his grandpa told him about it, or his dad told him about it, like how they talk about their identity and their blackness and finding the similarities between those. When I say el mejor en los idiomas and wanting to be remembered, in that way, I mean, I want to be remembered as like a bridge between both of these cultures, and someone that was able to master a skill set, right? Like I'm putting together a project right now. I'm making an album, and the goal truly is to try to make music that people enjoy listening to, and when they enjoy hearing, but when they listen to it, they value it more. If that makes sense, right? It's almost like mastering that craft while also switching between two languages, and doing it all while staying true to me. I think it's something we touched on. We touched on throughout this a lot. I think that it's really easy to dumb it down. It's really easy to lean on repetition to try to get something catchy. It's really easy to do that. It's a lot easier to make music that way. And someone that didn't compromise. I hope that I'm remembered that way for sure.
Oh, well said. Absolutely. Well, you are well remembered here on the Hip Hop Scholar podcast. I would like to also open another open invite for you to come back on the podcast. You are welcome anytime, Too Dapper. Please know that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'll probably be hitting you up to come back when I got music to share with you.
Okay, good, good. So awesome. So great to hear. Thank you so much for being here on the Hip Hop Scholar podcast, Hip Hop Scholar family. Not only like and subscribe, but y'all check out the links here in the description so you can hear all things that go along with Too Dapper and join on this journey with him. It has been an honor to have you on the podcast. I am Melanie, the Hip Hop Scholar. We are out of here. Peace.
Thank you so much. Peace.